This is what we're building today, a recipes app that includes a tab view, a navigation stack with a list, and we navigate to the detail view of said recipe. We're going to be setting a lot of foundation. However, we're also doing something new. We're going to be implementing Apple's new liquid glass effect. This is available in iOS 26, and it's available on some of the controls, including different effects and materials that are given to different controls. We'll be applying them to some of the buttons and images in the recipes app. Let's start with a fresh UI project. So the first thing we'll be creating the app. We're going to call it recipes app. Now, before we begin with the UI, let's go to our model. We need to define our data model that's going to populate our view. So we'll start with the recipe. And the idea here is the user will create their own recipes. They'll define the categories, time, everything else. And there we have our model. Now we won't define again the entire app, but I can tell you that it's not going to be just a simple vstack or a list. It will be a tab view. We will do some of the other tabs later. For now, let's do one of the tabs. It's going to be the recipes. So this is the list of the recipes the user has. And we'll have another one, which is the favorite. So basically the user has a list of recipes that are proposed daily by the app, and they can choose to save some of those. If not, the recipe will go away. Today we'll focus on the first one, the recipes list. So for our list view, we will have a navigation stack. This view, for now, we will start it with mock data. Again, we'll work on data models with data later. Now what will be our recipe is just an H stack. We'll add some spacing later. For now, the recipe will be the image. Our SF symbol has the size of that font. We will add more for the background. In the background, I can add, well, not this stuff, but we can actually add material. And we have thin, thick material. For example, this one, let's do ultra thin. And we can see there we have a rectangle. Now I wanted a little bit more rounded, so I'll do a clip shape of a rounded rectangle. Let's add more to our navigation here. So the navigation title, of course, will have recipes. And we want to go to the detail whenever the user taps here. We'll go for the navigation destination. Let's go and create this. I called it recipe view. Let's fix that. Okay, now let's keep adding to our recipe row. So after the image, we'll add the title and the subtitle. Fix that alignment. And give a little bit of spacing. Now I want more spacing with the image. Yeah, that's better. Now, since we don't want our subtitle to have the exact same color, so let's give the foreground style to be secondary and let the operating system choose the color. Now you can see with the appearance, the color changes to meet the theme. And we want the cooking time to go on the other end of the row. For that, we will use a spacer. And once again, we'll use secondary. And there we have our list. Now what's missing is when we tap here, we want the navigation to the detail view. So for that, we need to create a navigation link. For our recipe view, what we will have is the image on the top. It will be a big image. Again, it's just an SF symbol. And then we will have the detail of the recipe below. And we're going, the objective of this to be what's called a hero image. So it will appear at the top, big. And we want this to scale as much as possible. We will use the same effect we use. So it's a background with ultra thin material. And once again, let's add a clip shape of a rounded rectangle. Since we know we're going to be inside of a navigation stack, we're going to be pushing to this. Let's add the navigation title. And well, first, before adding the display mode, let's embed this between navigation stack so we can see how the title looks right now. Now let's change the display mode. The other one, no, we do not want that. The good news about the large is as we scroll down, it will compress to the inline one once there's enough content. Add the subtitle. So let's add some padding. Actually, let's add the padding to all of the sides. Yes. And just like we did, let's add on the row, let's add the cook time. And the servings. A bit of spacer there, and you can notice the items in our scroll view are getting a little bit too mushed together. So let's add some spacing as well. Okay, and you may notice our recipe is missing more stuff, which is of course the ingredients, and these are coming. They will be part of another video where we will look at other skills. And that'll be pretty much all that we're gonna do in this video regarding the content. So we have our scroll view. Let's go back to our content view and look at our app. So we mentioned about adopting liquid glass, right? So you can see the tab bar already has that. We can see when I press down and I move the indicator, we already have that liquid glass. However, our list doesn't. It does a little bit with the ultra thin material around the images, but we want more. So how do we apply this liquid glass? Well, SwiftUI and iOS 26 introduced this liquid glass material. It's a translucent look where you can see across the system. And for that in SwiftUI, we have the glass effect. So we have it in that glass effect is already in our tab bar. Let's go to our recipe list view. Now let's apply this glass effect to the images that we have in the recipe. So here, after the background material, we're gonna add the glass effect. And for now, let's add regular. Now, this is harder to notice here, but let's turn this to dark mode and notice the circle that we have right now. Go back and let's comment this out and see what disappears. See it? There, the effect is a little bit subtle. And the clip shape here actually needs a little bit more radius. There. So for this, let's add a little bit of regular. We can add more tint with color. Let's add blue and with a bit of opacity. And let's check it in light mode. Now let's do the same for the hero image we have here. This time we won't add color and just add regular. Again, it's difficult to see in light mode, but here we go dark. And let's watch it through the tab view. We can see the entire thing. So we have Once again, the glass effect already part of our tab bar. Let's go into one of these. We have this. Notice that also the navigation bar also has the glass effect with this icon here. And we already have that glass effect. That's pretty much it for implementing liquid glass. However, the effect that you're adding may be lost with the two things that we have done now, which is just applying the effect to some images. You can see it more with the tab bar here where when we scroll, the content in the background is a bit visible. So let's do that. Let's add an item and we will apply liquid glass effect to it so that you know the true intention of liquid glass. Notice that I'm not applying it to everything. That's not the point of liquid glass. It's just applying that glass effect to everything. I'm not going to do that. Let's instead add here in our scroll view, we'll add a C stack. Notice that in the tab bar we had a favorite. Well, where's the how can we make a recipe our favorite? Let's add a button for that. And let's make this. The element will be top, bottom, and we can change our button. Let's remove the label. Let it just be a image. Now for now, let's add more. I'm gonna add a bit more padding just for this so we can see how it would look. And once we change the button style, let's change it to border. Now right now, as you can see, let me scroll down. You can kind of see the content behind, but it's not what we want. Let's instead use another one. Oh, and let's change the tint of our button to red. And instead of border, let's use glass. See, we can see part of the content below just with the glass effect. One thing that I forgot to explain was the difference between this regular and clear. Clear is when you don't want the content behind the glass effect to be distorted. That is not the case. Normally, most of the time you're going to use regular. If you want to know all of the use cases where you can use clear, I will suggest to check the Apple guidelines or watch the WWDC discussion where they give some examples. Most of the times we will want to use regular. One important thing is never do glass on glass. So that's why also you don't apply this effect to everything. Right now I did it to the button and the image, and there's a very, very slim chance that the button will actually intersect with this. And that was all for today. We got a working recipes app. This was just us building the foundation where we specify our data model. We established the navigation from our tab view to the navigation stack to the detail view. And we also applied liquid glass available in iOS 26 to some of the elements in the app. Remember, it's not about applying that glass effect to everything in the app. It's just the stuff that we want to make a little bit prominent and to interact well with the content as it scrolls behind them, or they just overlaid over other items. Stay tuned for the next part where we will just keep on building on our recipes app. We'll add a feed with hero cards and using geometry effects. Bye.